Hey everyone, welcome back to another smartphone comparison that I'm going to be doing. Today it's going to be between the Samsung S3 and of course the HTC One X. And now these two phones of course are Android mobile phones, and the difference between them is very interesting. So let's get down to it. Well then, the Samsung S3 of course is, as you can see, a little bit taller, wider, and of course just slightly thinner. It's at 0.6 compared to the 0.9 from the HTC One X, while the HTC One X is 3 grams lighter, though the Samsung's screen is a 4.8 inch while the HTC has 4.7, so that goes down to the Samsung S3. Otherwise the resolution is the same for both the phones. The pixel density for the HTC One is just a little bit higher. It is at 312 ppi in comparison to 306, so that's only a 6 ppi difference. That is really too small to tell any difference in terms of the actual pixel density when you are looking at the screen. The processor families of course are completely different. You have the Exynos 4 for the Samsung, that being their own little brand, and you have the NVIDIA Tegra 3. Both of course the processors are quad core, while the Samsung S3 is at 1.4 GHz and the HTC One is leading at 1.5 GHz speed. Of course both phones are having a 1 GB RAM. Cameras are the same as well. Only the front camera for the actual Samsung S3 is at 1.9, a substantial greater improvement in terms of the HTC One, which is only at 1.3. Now the operating system for both the phones is by default the ice cream sandwich, and hopefully the Jelly Bean should be coming soon to both these phones. Now for the storage, you have the 1632/64 fixed pre-built for the Samsung S3, while the HTC One only has the 32 GB version of this phone. Now the Samsung S3 does support a micro SD card, while of course the HTC One doesn't. Also, both the phones have a 10-hour talk time. While the pricing is a little bit different, you have $847 for the factory unlocked for the Samsung S3, while the HTC is coming around $777. Now again, these prices are of course gonna vary and differ in terms of where you are located in the world, but that pretty much should give you a general idea that the HTC One X is around nearly, I don't know, around 60-70 bucks cheaper than its competitor, that being the Samsung S3. Now of course both the phones do have the NFC and the radio, while the HTC One X has of course the Beats audio for its speaker. So this pretty much wraps up the specifications and brings me to my conclusion. They both have turned out at 5 points each. Both the phones are very good phones. The S3 having a larger screen with a supposable slower processor, while the HTC with a smaller screen and sturdier feel, and is around $70 cheaper than the S3. It really comes close, very close to matching the S3 in terms of all the aspects. Overall, I'll bring it down to one question. If you're planning to buy any of these phones, do you have the additional $70 to spend on the phone? If not, then get to the HTC, because what I'm going to say next shouldn't change your mind anyways. Now, after digging around, I have found a few interesting things that of course don't fall under the actual specifications section. The S3 has a dimmer screen with full brightness on in comparison to the HTC. This may not be a big deal for you, but it's just good to know that the actual HTC screen is more brighter at full brightness in comparison to the S3. So there is one small advantage with the HTC. Furthermore, the S3, though it may have a slower processor at 1.4 GHz in comparison to the 1.5, when benchmarking tests have been done, the actual S3 did score higher. It scored 12,127 points, beating the actual HTC, which scored 10,829. But still, it's a pretty high score for the actual HTC at 10,829. Now, another thing I have found out after digging around a bit here and there, that the S3 does take slightly better pictures. So in case you want to have a better picture quality, of course the S3 gives you that. And the S3 also has a little longer battery life in comparison to the actual HTC. Now for the HTC, the actual HTC feels sturdier in your hand. You know, I do have the S3 does feel a little bit plasticky, but after digging around on the internet, they say that the HTC feels substantially sturdier and just gives you that, like, you know, proper, you can say, solid feel in your hand in comparison to the S3. And I sort of do understand where they're coming from, because the S3 does feel a little bit, you know, plasticky in your hand. So I do understand where that comes from. Now, unfortunately, the HTC One that it doesn't come with is the micro micro, of course, card, which means you can expand your memory, and the camera protrudes from the HTC on the backside. It means the camera does stick out a bit, which is a little bit annoying. And the main disadvantages by the HTC, I don't really mind the micro, you don't have a micro card, and I don't really mind that the camera protrudes a bit. That's fine if I don't have the $70 to throw down extra. What really bothers me is that you don't have a removable battery or the back plate. Now the back plate, of course, you can switch the back plate in case you'd want to switch the design, you know, so it means you're not always stuck to one design in terms of your back plate. You can always get different colored back plates and switch that. But what bothers me is that you don't have a removable battery, you know, especially if you do call a lot, play your games a lot, you know, watch movies a lot, and you're on the move. Your battery life, you're cycling, when you're recharging and you're cycling that battery, I don't know, every battery has a certain amount of life cycles that you can charge it. I don't know, let's say, I'm just throwing numbers, I haven't did research into this. For example, your battery on the HTC can be recharged, I don't know, 5,000 times before the actual life from 10 hours of battery life will go down to 6 hours of battery life. Now the problem with that is when that happens, of course, you'll realize that you can't talk as much, you can't play as much, because the battery life, even though you charge it, it doesn't last as long. But the problem with that is with the S3 or other Android phones where you can replace the battery, remove the battery and just put another one in, is that you can obviously go back to your normal battery life. But with the actual HTC One X, you can't do that. So sooner or later, if you're really stuck or investing in a phone and you know that when you buy a phone, you're going to stick with the phone for a couple of years, because really the phone is your whole life, this is a disadvantage, because after, I don't know, 2 years of using that phone, your battery life will go down and there's nothing you can do about it. This is the issue. If you are going to buy a phone and you know within a year and a half's time you're going to get rid of it, that's fine. But if you're going to buy a phone and this is really an investment for you, a big one in your life, then wouldn't buy the HTC, as you will notice your battery life is going to go down and you can't do anything about that. Unless, of course, you're just a normal phone user, you know, you make your calls a day, you play a little bit of games here and there, and once in a while you might throw on a movie on your phone, or, you know, watch YouTube once in a while, then it's fine, because literally you won't cycle the battery and use the actual battery so much that it'll start to degrade the actual battery lifespan. Well, this pretty much covers a quick actual review for the actual HTC versus the S3. Don't forget to take a look at the actual S3 versus, the HTC versus the iPhone 5 as well. The links are down below, and see you guys next time, and don't forget to leave your comments down below. See ya, bye.